Hey guys, welcome to the Elevate Your Soul podcast. Today I am interviewing Viola Hug. Yes, she is my older sister, and I'm interviewing her on human design. I'm not sure if you've heard of this before, but human design is becoming more and more common and more heard of in the spiritual community. Human design is a synthesis of ancient and modern systems to help you grow a better understanding of self-knowledge. Built from principles such as I Ching, Ayurveda, Hinduism, chakra system, quantum physics, astrology, Kabbalah, modern sciences, and so many more. Together combined to make this system of human designs. And there is a human design chart, and you can find your own human design by just knowing the exact time that you were born, the date, and where on earth you were born. And you can find out your human design online. I have put in a link in the show notes. So before you guys hear the rest of this episode, I highly suggest you click on this link and do the quiz and find out which human design you are so that the rest of the episode can make more sense to you. This is really fun, and you can also ask your family members or your partners or your friends when they were born and where they were born and get to know their human design as well. I hope you guys enjoy this episode and find it interesting. And I would love to hear which human design you are. If you want to send me a message afterwards and let me know, I would love to know. Enjoy this episode. Hello, Viola Hug. Welcome to the Elevate Your Soul podcast.
What's up? Good to be here.
Good to be here. Yeah, you're in Canada now, right?
Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, represent.
I'm so excited. I'm coming there next month, so it'll be so exciting to see you again.
And how crazy we're coincidentally staying in the same building.
It's the same building. I know. The universe is amazing.
So
Does
funny
things. First question of the day. What elevates your soul?
That's a very great question. I think over time that's definitely changed and shifted a little bit, because I think the more I come back to myself and who I really am, the more I actually understand what elevates my soul versus just like what I think I enjoy.
Yeah.
And I'd say like a big thing for me is I really enjoy just being in the moment of like enjoying what all the things that life has to offer. Like I love just being able to sit with my husband and enjoy our time together, like whether we're laughing, talking, watching TV, like it doesn't actually even really matter. I love doing that. And I love taking myself out on dates and taking myself to the spa and, you know, doing all these wonderful things for myself, just to actually like really enjoy the human experience alongside it all.
Yeah, definitely. We can't deny that we're human beings.
Yeah.
Living a human experience. Cool.
Totally.
I love that. Can you give us a brief description of what human design is?
Yeah, sure. So human design is essentially, like, the easiest way that I describe it is it kind of talks about how energy moves through your body and how other people therefore basically like interact with you and how you receive energy from the world around you as well. Yes. So it because it works on an energetic level, it's kind of like all on the kind of subconscious level. Like a lot of this stuff, unless you become aware of it, you don't actually really notice about yourself. Yep. And it stems from putting together a whole bunch of different concepts. So it incorporates things like I Ching, astrology, like how you actually find out your human design as you look up the time you were born, the date you were born, and the location you were born, similar to astrology, but then it pulls through all of this amazing stuff, and it focuses on an aura type as well as my 9 main centers in the body that are similar to chakras.
Oh, wow. It goes over the auras as well.
Yeah, so the types are the aura. Yeah.
Ah, okay. Wow, that's so interesting. And what made you stumble upon like human design, and why are you interested in it?
Why am I so obsessed that I talk about it like pretty much every single where I go without permission? Good question. Well,
That's
like
like
first
me.
of all,
That's like me in the doshas with Ayurveda.
yeah. Oh yeah, totally. It's just like no one asked, and I'm just like,
Exactly.
oh, human design.
Yeah.
But no, in end of 2017, I was doing a coaching program, and she invited a guest speaker on to talk about energetic alignment. And one of the things she brought up was human design, and she didn't really even know a lot about it herself. She just brought it up very briefly and said, oh, like this is human design. And for some reason, it really, really resonated with me. And I'd heard about it before, but I'd never looked into it because I think I Googled it and got so confused that I just put it to the side because it is quite confusing.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, the way that she described it, and I think she said like a takeaway point, which was something along the lines of like, oh, when you understand that, then you understand how your energy differs from other people and how you can like make decisions better in the world. And I'm like, this sounds like something I really need to know about.
Yeah.
So I started Googling it, and I went on like this crazy rampage of learning it and following everyone who studies human design and everything. And I guess like the real benefit and the real power behind human design is that, like I talked about, because it talks about like understanding how energy moves through you and how you receive energy from the world and how people perceive your energy.
Yeah.
I got like this really, really deep understanding of why in business, because I've been in business for a long time, why some people really struggle with particular concepts, whereas other people really excel with it, and why it's not actually wrong or bad, and how if you make slight adjustments depending on what kind of aura you are, depending on how people perceive you, that you can actually completely radically change your results. So I started applying it, and I mean, my type is one of only 8%. And so it's not common common advice doesn't normally go for my type of design.
Yes.
And so it was really interesting seeing those shifts. And my husband is like a polar opposite design to me, same as you actually, Arella, projector.
Yeah.
And it's like also a completely different, like I'd say the most misunderstood in terms of like normal people advice is the projector.
Right.
But the most powerful thing for me, first and foremost, was understanding how to make decisions. Because one of the things that human design shows us is how our intuition actually speaks to us when we're in a place where we're trying to make like major life decisions. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, yeah.
Wow. So it can actually help you. Like for me, when it comes to intuition, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate, it's a lot of times I need to ask myself, like, is this thought or is this feeling I have fear-based, or is this, my inner knowing? Is this like, a sign from the universe that I need to do this? Like, where is this coming from? Love or fear? That question of, is this an intuitive feeling? Like, is this serving me, or is this just fear-based? And is this just, stemmed from anxiety or whatever?
Yeah. And I think that's a really important part. And I think like everyone does have that kind of like relationship with intuition. I suppose the human design, where human design would come in even more specifically would be like, if you're making a decision, like let's say, for example, you have a really fun business idea, or you're thinking of moving, or you're deciding whether to get into a relationship with someone, like something that's kind of a little bit more of a major life decision, especially, then it's like, I mean, we can for sure ask ourselves if it's coming from like fear or excitement or wherever, like kind of those intuitive questions. But also the body actually sends us signs. So it like, for some people, they're highly sensitive people. They're born in this world to really feel all of the emotions. And if I remember correctly, this is the category you fall in, Narelle. And so you have a very sensitive emotional pattern, which means your emotions speak to you a lot, but it also means that when you make major life decisions, it's important that you're not in a very high or low in your emotional system.
Okay.
And so you would ask yourself these questions, and you would just be mindful of your emotions. And I actually, when I work with clients that are emotional authority, it's called. So if you do Google your chart, you can just Google human design free chart. You do need to know your birth time and everything, but if you put it in,
and you need to know your exact birth time, right? So nobody can give a rough estimate. You want to know the exact minute, basically.
Yeah, exactly. You want to know the exact minute. Now, I mean, I have had clients before that are like, I literally don't know. Like my mom says it's around 1:45 or whatever. That's okay. Like my recommendation is, if you don't know 100% but you know a rough estimate, then try it out. And sometimes what you can do as well is you can do like an hour earlier or an hour later. I've had clients that like for cannot find their birth time at all. And we literally just put in all the times throughout the day and see what the major differences are in the chart. And usually you can kind of narrow it down from there. But I mean, exact is the best thing. And if it's that your authority is, your inner authority is emotional solar plexus, which is about 50% of the population, then you would fall into this category as well. Yeah. And so that means, you're highly sensitive with your emotions. You're really here to feel. And for some people that can be very overwhelming when they don't understand this, because you're actually naturally meant to have lows, like moments where, you know, if you kind of start overthinking it, you can be like, what's the point? Like, oh my gosh, and get into this phase of despair. But then on the other hand, also have like extreme highs where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so abundant. Like I can do anything. And they're both actually beautiful parts of yourselves, and they both show you beautiful things. It's just when we don't understand why it's happening, like when we start questioning why we're feeling emotions, that's usually when an emotional authority will actually wind themselves into a worse state, versus if they're just like, oh, I'm just experiencing this feeling, hello, and allow yourself to feel it. It's a different experience. And then, when it comes to decision making, it's like if you know kind of when you're having ups and downs, then you can also know that, you know, just to move through the cycle, give yourself 3-4 days before making major decisions, and really allow yourself to feel it in every part of the emotional experience for yourself before you make a big decision.
Wow, this is exciting. Can we jump through to what the 5 different human design types are?
Yeah, sure. This is probably like the best place to start, actually. So there's 5 types. They're called your aura types. On most charts, they come up as your types, but the 5 types are a generator, a manifesting generator, a projector, a manifester, and then a reflector.
Okay.
So those are the 5 types. In terms of, if you want to know like percentages or anything, about 70% of the population fall under manifesting generator and generator. It's about half for them, so about 35% of each.
Wow.
About
35%, like a third of the population, roughly, is a generator, and the other third is a manifesting generator.
Yeah. And so
and the other third is a mix of...
So the other third is divided by the other 3, which is about 20 to 22% is the projectors. Then about 8 to 10% is the manifestors, and only about 1% is the reflectors.
Wow.
Yeah. In terms of a brief breakdown of the types, like the generator and manifesting generator have the same aura response when people are in their energy, which is a very open and enveloping aura. So generally people really feel your energy. It's like, hey, it's me kind of energy.
Yeah.
And it's a very warm energy, you know, typically it's quite a warm energy. Like obviously people's emotions and all of this stuff come into play as well, but generally speaking, the aura in its most neutral state will be a very open, enveloping, even if this person's in a grumpy mood, you'll probably notice it too, kind of thing. A lot more easy. And they're defined by their, they have a defined sacral center, which I don't know how deep you want to get into all of this, but essentially they have a motor within them that's like this fire energy that can just consistently burn and burn and burn and create energy. And so 70% of the population have this almost like this generator within them, which is where that generator comes from, where they can actually generate energy. And the only time that a manifesting generator or generator generally has low energy is when they're doing something that's not aligned with them or they don't love.
Which is a lot of the population though, right?
It is a lot of the population, like the generators and stuff that I meet that are like, I'm so tired. I'm like, something needs to change. Like, because if they're doing something they love, they actually generate more energy, and it's actually healthiest for them to work until they feel tired. Like if they still have energy, but they're like, oh, but I normally go to bed at 10. It's better for them to stay awake, because if they still have kind of residual energy left in their body at the end of the day, then it will actually disrupt their sleep more than if they just stayed awake, you know, did a couple of things and then went to sleep and had, you know, a more restful sleep.
So it's important for them to use up the energy that they have, that they're creating.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And the differences between the generator and the manifesting generator on the most like simplistic scale is the generator is kind of like a slow and steady energy. They generally can like be more, they're better at like kind of having a focus in their energetic direction. If they get too spread too thin with too many things on their plate, it doesn't work as well for them. So they're best to focus on like 1 to 3 projects or tasks or whatever at a time.
Yeah.
Versus the manifesting generator is kind of like the energizer bunny of the group. It's like the most sporadic one.
Yeah.
And so they can tend to hop around between different things quite a lot as well, because for them, unlike the generator that can usually tell the first time they check in with their kind of like inner intuition if something's in alignment, it will be. For a manifesting generator, it can actually quickly change. So it can be the first time they check in, it can be, and then they start doing it and suddenly they don't like it anymore, and then it's not in alignment anymore. So quite often they can be seen as indecisive as well, but it's just like, they actually are the natural multitaskers as well. So they can multitask and take on a lot of things at once. They just need to kind of be a little bit more mindful of jumping into things before they really, really know if it's in alignment for them, because that can wear them out a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Then the rest of the population, so the projectors, manifestors, and reflectors, do not have this generator energy within them. So they're not actually designed to be working. The 9 to 5 structure is totally not meant for them. They are actually best when they work 2 to 4 hours at a time. They take a nap during a day. They chill out. For when a projector, like when those 3 types are living in their design, like other people can often look at them as lazy.
Yep.
But what can also happen is because they don't have the center defined, it means it's open to receiving energy from the outside world, which means that sometimes they can also be conditioned to think that they should work. And they almost have this pressure to act on this work.
For sure.
And so a really good example of that is me. Like both our parents are manifesting generators, whereas all us kids, like you meet Giselle, we're all manifestors or projectors. And which means we all don't have an open, we don't have that generator inside of us, but we would have been conditioned from our parents' generator energy. So I identified as a workaholic for a very, very long time. And I would wonder why I would get like sick, or I'd get burnt out to the point where like sometimes I just like couldn't even get out of bed for like a whole day. And I'm like, oh, what's wrong with me? I'm so tired. Like,
it's so true. And I look at other people who I'd work with and I'd be like, how are you like alive? How are you able to like just keep going? Like I couldn't even finish a shift, like an 8-hour shift.
It is not for you.
No, I realized that very early on as well. And I question, like, is it my health? Is there something wrong with me? Like, do I have some kind of immune disease or something that these other people can just work and then come home and have the energy to, do their home life? And it just blew my mind, but understanding this really helped me.
Yeah. And so like for a projector, their aura is actually a very deep aura. They're like the ones that meet you and within 3 seconds want to like get into deep and meaningfuls with you. They're like, let's talk about deep stuff. Like, how's your sex life? Like,
yes, really?
Yeah, that's you. And then, or like, they're just like, have you ever thought about the meaning of life? Like, they're just so deep.
Yeah.
But the thing with their aura is it's very penetrating. So in the sense that it's almost like a teardrop shape, and it kind of like works its way literally right into the people who are around them, their like heart center, which means that it's almost like this funnel system that happens where the people around a projector can actually tell what a projector is all about. And it's like, when they know that projector has something they want, because that projector is standing really strong in their energy. And this is also why it's so important for projectors to really like stand with certainty around what they want. Like when they love something, when they want to do something, it's important for them to really like own it, because when they're in the energy of like completely owning it, like all a projector really needs to do to have a successful life, and I'm not even joking, is just like do what they love and talk about it.
Perfect. I'm on the right track.
Yeah, exactly. And not invite people in. Like this is the point that I was going to make. So for projectors, because they have such a deeply penetrating style aura, that if they do what they probably kind of want to do, which is jump straight into the deep end about stuff, but someone hasn't invited them to ask for their advice or to ask for their help, or, invited them to talk deeper about something, then the other people kind of feel a little bit taken aback and threatened, and they don't really respect that advice as much. And then the projector feels really wounded. Like the wound for the projector is not being recognized. So it's like the projector needs to learn how to stand in their energy and hold space, but not get into that kind of conversation unless they've been invited to. So, and the thing is that when they stand in that energy, it happens so fast. Like, it's not like you're suddenly going to be sitting there for months and months, like waiting for people to be like, let's talk about this, because as soon as you're like in your power, people will feel that and people will ask you. And the perfect example is of my husband, Nick. So he's a projector, and he hired a coach like a few weeks ago, and he's like, that's it. Like, I'm launching my coaching business officially. Like, I'm doing this. He made the decision on his call. He set his income goals. He set his business goals. Within 1 hour, he hadn't posted anything. He hadn't told anyone but his coach about this. Within 1 hour, someone got in touch with him and was like, how do I work with you? How can I pay in full? And he like 1.5 times his income goal. And like the next day, another client came to him. Like, it's just like so much power, and he hadn't even posted about it, you know?
Right. So it's about standing, because I'm a projector as well. So it's standing in my energy, doing what I love, and waiting for people to come to me rather than me approaching others and being like, hey.
Yeah. So it's like, so the projector is kind of like the lighthouse. They just stand their ground, they shine their light onto the world, and then people will see your light and they'll just flock to you. And a lot of times, like, you won't even know, like, you would have just thought something and like thought of a really powerful decision or something that makes you happy. And then someone's like, oh, hey, by the way, do you offer this? Or have you ever thought of doing this? And you're like, oh my gosh, creepy. I was just thinking about that. But it's like, that's the projector aura.
Right. And that's 22% of the population?
Yeah, 20 to 22%.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the manifestor, which is our 8 to 10% of the population, they are a little bit more tricky because they have a closed aura.
Okay.
Which means that other people can't actually feel their aura or what they're about. And it can, and their aura.
Serious ones.
Yeah. And it actually, because it's kind of like it's hardened, but not hardened as in like it's hard to get into them or anything. But what it kind of does is it pushes people's own aura back on them. Right. So when someone is in a room with a manifestor, they often feel a little bit confronted, and they might not even know why.
Okay.
And so it's like, it kind of makes them see themselves in a light that they may not have been wanting to see. Like, for some people, it makes them feel amazing because the way they see themselves is really good. Yeah. But for some people, it can also make them feel a little bit uncomfortable and uneasy. Like, it might just be like, oh, this is a bit weird.
And is that for people with lower does that have to do with self-esteem? Like, for people with lower self-esteem don't like being around manifestors?
I mean, it's not that people don't like being around manifestors. People are actually incredibly intrigued by manifestors because there's like this mystery about them. But it's like, for example, the way to describe it is like, if a manifestor came into the room and started talking about stuff that the people, especially if the people weren't prepared for it, they would be like, feel a little bit threatened. Just like a part of them would be like, and you're right, like, it probably is more to your own insecurities. So it's like, it's the same thing with like when you're triggered about something, you know, like if you're triggered by someone else doing something, it's probably because there's an unhealed wound within you.
Yes.
And the manifestor energy is quite a triggering energy in that sense. And so the thing for a manifestor to remember is that they're also very independent. So they have incredibly independent energy. They don't want to tell people what to do. And they're actually what they're doing. Sorry, they don't want to tell people what they're doing. And they're actually the only aura type out of all 5 types that are here to initiate. So they're the only type that can just like think of an idea and then initiate it straight away. So like how I said, for you, you need to be invited. I don't think I mentioned it with the generators and the manifesting generators, but they need to respond. So if they have an idea, for them, they'll always see an external sign. So someone will be talking about it. They'll see the word of what they're, talking about on a poster. They'll see something that's an external sign. And when they see the external sign, that's when they know to act. Okay. Versus for a manifestor, they can just act straight away.
Okay.
But because people can't really read their aura, when they just act, it kind of threatens people. And they're like, ooh, they're a little, ooh, about it. So for manifestors, what they need to learn is they need to learn to tell, if someone's going to be impacted by their action, they need to make sure to tell them, and not because they're asking for permission, which is why it's super counterintuitive for manifestors, because they don't like asking for permission.
Yes.
But they need to tell people just to let them know. So the classic example of like, if there's a family sitting around a table or friends, and there's a manifestor and they want to go to the bathroom and they just get up to go to the bathroom, people will be like, either like, oh, where are you going? Or if they don't say anything afterwards, they'll be like, oh my God, did something go wrong? Like, did we offend them? Like, blah, blah, blah. And then you're just like, no, I'm just going to the bathroom. And they're like, oh, okay. Versus if you just from the beginning said, oh, I'm just getting up to go to the bathroom, they would have been like, oh, that's fine. you know, but even if you act first and then say it later, they'll be like, oh, but were you really going to the bathroom? Are you just saying that?
Yeah.
You know, so for manifestors, it's important for them just to inform people that are going to be impacted by their actions, about what's happening. Yeah.
Right.
And then our tiny little 1%ers, the reflectors. People feel amazing within reflectors energy generally, because they have a completely open aura. So they have no what's called definition in their design. Everything about them is open, which means that their environment is their most important thing, because who they are, their health, everything about them is basically a reflection of who they're around and their environment.
Wow.
Yeah. So for reflectors, it's incredibly important that they choose their where they live, their people, everything very, very wisely. And if they're, you know, wanting to step into a different phase of their life, they may need to change their environment in order to properly be able to step into that.
Yeah.
And because they have no definition in their design, they also actually need to make decisions based on a moon cycle. So they actually have to wait 28 days, like a full 28-day cycle, before making major decisions about things. And in that time, kind of talk about it with people, kind of get a feel for what it feels like to talk about it. And then after 21 days, they'll be more clear about whether it's in alignment with them or not.
Wow. So in a sense, are they the most sensitive out of all the 5 types?
So to speak, like people say there's like, you know, in human design, there's not really a thing as like sensitive and non-sensitive, because there's no, that's not really a measure. However, they're 100% open to all the energy around them. Whereas like most other people, like, well, all other types are at least semi-defined, and defined means that you have your own internal energy, and openness means you're taking on energy from the outside world, and they're completely open. So yeah. I mean, like a really classic example of a famous reflector is Sandra Bullock.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Sandra Bullock's a reflector.
Okay.
And she's living really beautifully in her design, from what I've heard from other human design readers and stuff who've looked into her chart.
Yeah. The different chakras you were saying. Is that the chakras which are open and closed? Is that what you're going through? Or
Yeah.
Oh, so interesting.
So human design has 9 centers. So like in the kind of Western chakra system, they talk about 7 centers. And so the human design system shows those 7 centers, but it shows 2 additional, which is the spleen and the G center.
And where are they located?
Or the identity. So the identity or G center is located like kind of in the chest area. And then the spleen, if you're looking at an actual human design chart, it's the very left-hand triangle, the most left-hand triangle you can see.
Okay, so it's off to the side.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. Okay, and so there's 9 different chakras in the human design. And so the reflector, all of theirs is open.
Yep, so they don't have any defined centers.
Wow, I just would I'd love to know like how I could tell like if someone was a reflector. That's kind of like why I'm asking.
Yeah.
They're so rare.
I know.
Like would I be able to tell if I met one? Or
I don't know, like I think it is really hard to tell, because they are such good matches to their environment. Like they often will probably be mimicking the people who design who's around them.
Right, so they basically mold to their outer external world.
Yeah. And like, so we actually have a mutual friend, or I mean, I'm sure you've met him. You know Dion from Pami?
Yes, the guy with dreadlocks.
Yes, he was at my leaving party.
Yes,
he's a reflector. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Can you let people know like how they can find out which human design they are? So for people who are listening, they're like, oh my God, I really want to know what I am.
Yeah, so if you Google human design free chart, the 2 main websites that I recommend are either Jovian Archive, where you can find a design chart. Like it's probably not going to make any sense to you, but my recommendation is to, one, like obviously listen to the different things I talked about on this podcast, but then also you can Google the top 3 things that you need to know is the type, the strategy, and the authority. Like once you can start to get a little bit of a handle on that stuff, and you can actually start to reflect on it and see how it makes sense to you, and just pay attention to it to see how it kind of plays out in your life, then suddenly design will make a lot more sense. Because I feel like when you try to go too deep at the start, then you can get really overwhelmed, and you can start to try to like type yourself, you know, which is not really like the whole point of human design is to uncondition yourself. So you want to that you're not trying to be like, oh, like now I have to do this because I'm this type or whatever. But Yeah, like just learn about those three, and those three are the easiest to understand at first as well. And then the second website is called My Body Graph, which is really interesting as well, because it will show your chart, and if you click on the different centers and stuff, it will actually give you like a little bit of description of what they all mean.
Oh, perfect. That sounds great.
Yeah.
And then of course you need to know what time you were born.
Oh yes. Yeah, sorry. So you need to know
So
where
don't
you were
estimate
born.
before you go on these websites. Just ask your mom.
Yeah, check, like people either have it written on their birth certificate, on like people have like birthing books. Their mom wrote it down somewhere, someone remembers. Like surprisingly, memory is often off. So I've had like quite a few people, they're like, oh, mom said I was born at 7, and then they check it, it was like 3 p.m. instead of 7 a.m. or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, but you know, you can just try and find it out, but you need the date you were born, the time you were born, and the city and country you were born in.
Okay, perfect. It's exciting.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to check out their human design now.
Hopefully.
All right. Thank you so much for coming online again. This is our second interview.
You're so welcome.
Okay. Have a good day.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.